going on, Nitrosites? It is your boy, the Nitro General here, back at it again with Season 6 of the NPBA, guys. This is so exciting. I'm so excited to finally be back, guys. I'm finally excited to finally be back to recording some content for you guys. Now, like I said, well, I can't say like I said in the update video. I do think I'm going to record a quick update video for you guys as well. So make sure you guys check that out, just with a lot of different stuff. But so like I said in that video, I am buying a house right now, so content is not actually going to resume fully until we get all moved into that next month and everything like that. So whether it's next month or February before we get back into recording content, I'm not totally sure. You guys will still get your draft videos like this. I'll still make sure those get all up and everything. But other than that, videos may not, like, full, like, series-wise, may not resume for a month or so. But, yeah, if you guys want to know more about that whole process, you guys can actually go check out the update video. So just click on, you know, the channel, and then it should be one of the last videos. Should be the video that went up right before this. I haven't even recorded the video yet, so I don't know, but hopefully everything looks good. It looks a lot better. I know I have this ring light now that should be helping with the webcam lighting. I know I haven't had that a ton in videos, and then I actually have a brand new mic that I got for my birthday, you know, back like 6 months ago, like 8 months ago, but I haven't recorded too many videos with it. So hopefully, you know, you guys can hear me better now, is what hopefully that didn't break your eardrums, but hopefully you guys can hear me better. Let me know down below about what you guys think of the audio itself, if it is a lot better. So, but yeah. So for now, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the draft analysis for this season of the NPBA. I'm really, really excited. As always, guys, if you do enjoy this video, I would really appreciate it if you guys would hit that like button down below and subscribe if you guys are new. Every Wednesday, I'm planning on, maybe, depending on schedule-wise, maybe not every Wednesday, but I'm trying to get up every Wednesday. There'll be a draft video at 5 p.m. EST. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on so you do not miss when I do post every one of these. So, yeah, we did finish Season 5. I know we didn't finish it on the channel. I know I talked about that more in the update video. But we did finish it. We did make it to semifinals, whether you guys believe it or not. We did make it to semifinals, and then we did lose in semifinals. So, but that was a really, really fun season. So, yeah, but I'm really excited to get back into this. If you guys don't know what the NPBA is, if you guys have not been here, if this is your first time, hello, welcome. The NPBA is my draft league that I have created called the Nitro Pokemon Battle Academy, right? I created that years ago. You know, it's awesome. We are the Baltimore Blazekins. And, yeah, I'm super, super hyped. Also, if you guys want some Baltimore Blazekins merch, let me know down below. I've been messing around with some stuff, trying to get some stuff worked out, but I haven't been able to get anything concrete. That's why, you know, you guys aren't getting a merch update. But, maybe at some point during this season, I will get something out. So, yeah. But, yeah, so a draft league, basically, if you guys don't know what a draft league is, in layman's terms, everybody takes turns drafting a single Pokemon. Once those Pokemon are gone, they're not able to be drafted, right? This was a snake-style draft, so it goes from 1st to 12th, and then 12th to 1st, right? That way, the two people on the ends get to pick twice, because they end that round that they're in, and they start off the next round. That's basically what it is. Like I said, once those are gone. In this league, you need to have 12 Pokemon specifically, right? You need 1 Tier 1, 2 Tier 2s, 3 Tier 3s, and a Tier 4, and then you have 500 points to pick Pokemon for your 4 free Pokemon, right? Basically, you're not required to pick any Pokemon in any specific tiers, but Pokemon in higher tiers are tiered more expensively. Tier 1 is 300, Tier 2 is 2, Tier 3 is 100, and Tier 4 is 50. That way, any Pokemon in those tiers, you can draft, but it takes up your points, obviously. And if you pick higher tier Pokemon, like another Tier 1 powerhouse, you're probably going to be stuck with doing, you know, another, you know, Tier 3 and Tier 2, Tier 4s kind of thing. So, and if you're okay with that, that's how it goes. But, yeah. So in previous seasons, what I usually do is I usually start off with a tier 1, and then I work myself down the list. Last season, I drafted a tier 1 that I actually started with some tier 3s, and that actually worked out really well for me, so I kind of did a similar approach this season. Overall, we were 3rd in the draft, which I think last season we were 3rd in the draft too, which is good for us having one of the first 3 picks. But it was bad because then we have to wait for it to go all the way back down and all the way to come back up. That way everybody picks their tier 1 and everybody starts firing off good tier 2s, you know, and stuff like that. And there were some people who, like myself, started off with lower tiers. I say lower tiers, but I started off with a tier 2, right? There was a tier 2 specific Pokemon that I wanted. I had a tier 1 in mind, which we did end up getting. But I didn't want to draft it specifically because I didn't feel like it would be drafted, like at all, with all the new Pokemon. I mean, this is a post-Pokemon Indigo Disc draft league, meaning all Pokemon in both DLCs are up to draft with some exceptions, like Tropicos is banned. Also, just getting this out of the way, Stellar Terra is banned as well. Each team gets 2 Terra captains from either tier 3 or tier 4. No tier 2s or tier 1s can Terastallize. But basically, any tier 3s or tier 4s can Terastallize, but you have to pick 3 typings. 1 has to be a typing that the Pokemon already is, and 2 can be whatever you want, but it has to be predetermined. That way, it's easier for everybody to plan out with. As well as, you know, Stellar is banned because we're not playing with that. I'm still a little confused. I think I know how it works, but just to keep things easy, we're just gonna ban it entirely. So yeah. So I started off with a tier 2 because the tier 1 I didn't think would get picked, as well as if it did, I felt like it would be easier to just find another powerhouse and tier 1 that just fit in with the rest of the team. And, you know, worst case scenario, there was a 24-hour grace period after it ended, so we could make transactions. So if I just picked another tier 1 and wanted to mess around the team, I could do that without wasting any of my 5 free AG transactions, so I could use them throughout the season. So yeah. So the tier 2 that I picked was actually a Pokemon that I feel like is a little controversial in tier 2, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm actually really, really excited to draft it because it's one of only 2 Pokemon introduced after Gen 9, or Gen 9 or after. All my other Pokemon are just older Pokemon in general, and this was one of the only ones. It is a new Pokemon in the Teal Mask, so I'm really, really excited. It is a tier 2. I'm super excited, and that is Team Jacob, the Blood Moon Ursaluna. Now, I'm just super, super hyped, guys, because Blood Moon Ursaluna is an absolute powerhouse with a 135 special attack. Now, I know what you're talking about. Tier 2 for a Pokemon that's banned in singles? Yes, I know it's a little, it's a little bit of a touchy subject, but both Ursalunas were actually in tier 2, and I feel like both Ursalunas are not as good as they used to be, being very easily combated once you know how to combat them both, so that they were both in tier 2, as well, because one of the guys in the draft said, oh yeah, you know, putting it in tier 2 so you could draft it. That's not what I did, because otherwise, if that's what I was going to do, I would have done it, and then I would have placed regular Ursaluna in tier 1, right? Let's be completely honest. I'm not gonna, if I really felt like I wanted to give myself an unfair advantage, I would not have put the other Ursaluna in tier 2 as well. And yes, this is banned, but in doubles, it's way easier. It is not banned in doubles, and it is way easier to combat, right? So let's just be completely honest. There were a lot of Pokemon that could be tier 1 and tier 2, as well as a lot of tier 1s that could be, or a lot of tier 2s that could be tier 1s. And I didn't really draft a totally broken team. It would be if I drafted another powerhouse tier 1, as well as used my points for another tier 1, to have potentially 3 Pokemon that could be tier 1, but... So, Team Jacob, the Blood Moon Ursaluna, I'm actually really excited. This thing is super, super strong, right? Base 113 HP, as well as 135 special attack, right? Its defenses is really good in 120. Special defense is a little on the low side at 65 and 52 speed, right? It's faster than regular Ursaluna, but not much, right? It is faster than regular Ursaluna, and it gets rid of some of the bulk, right? I believe regular Ursaluna is more bulky and slower, while Blood Moon is a little bit less bulky and a little faster, right? This thing is definitely a slow Pokemon, but it gets access to a lot of super, super awesome attacks. Like, it gets access to Earth Power, right? It gets access to Blood Moon, which is the base, like, what, 140 attacking move, which is basically just a Giton Hammer in the aspect where you can't use it every turn. You can only use it every other turn, which is totally fine with me. You know, this, it is a situation where I know that if we need another really strong normal type move, which you probably won't, we can run Hyper Voice, because it does get access to that as well. But with its ability, oh god, what is its ability called? I can't even think of it off the top of my head right now. But basically what it does is it allows you to hit ghost types with normal and fighting type moves, which is super cool, because this thing also gets access to Vacuum Wave, right? Priority special type attacking Mach Punch is just super good in general, especially because this thing is slow. Being able to potentially save it if it does get pretty low in health to come back in and just Vacuum Wave, which is really nice. And it being a ground type, it is not weak to Stealth Rocks, so if for some reason Stealth Rocks are up, we could still bring this thing out and bring it back in, and unless it's on like 1 HP, you know, it shouldn't die to a Stealth Rock, so that's cool. If multiple spikes are up, it will, but again, Hazard's not really as popular in draft, nor are they as popular in doubles as they are in singles, right? We have to really worry about Sticky Webs and Toxic Spikes. Those are the two more important ones, but we have both of those under control, which I'll talk about later in the draft. So, yeah, I'm super excited about this. Blood Moon, I mean, a Blood Moon is going to go even resisted by a Steel or a Rock type, is still going to be doing massive damage, especially if we choice specs this thing. Granted, we will have to switch out afterwards if that's the case, but, you know, it's just super good. It does get access to Calm Mind, too, in order to set up, which is really nice. So if I think I have a good opportunity to set up with this thing, that is really awesome that we could do. As well as it does get Recovery in Moonlight. It's not, like, it's not like it gets Recover or, you know, a Morning Sun, but it does get access to Moonlight if we did want to run that, which I think is just really nice in general. So, yeah. The next Pokemon we drafted is a Tier 2, not Tier 2, a Tier 3 Pokemon. A Tier 3 Pokemon, which I feel like could have been Tier 2, but, you know, I did feel like it was better in Tier 3. It is a Pokemon that I have never drafted in the past, which is really funny, since it's, like, my favorite Pokemon of all time. So, and I've never had the chance to draft it in a draft league, so I'm really excited to get it. And that is Marvel the Milotic. I'm so excited, right? We have a couple super bulky Pokemon off the bat, having a base 125 special defense, base 79 defense, which is still pretty respectable, and base 95 HP, coming off with a base 100 special attack, too. And being one of the only Pokemon that still gets access to Scald, which is really nice, right? Base 81 speed. It's not super slow, but it's not super fast either, right? It's decent. It's definitely decent. And I'm really excited to use this thing. Does get access to Ice Beam, does get access to Icy Wind, Dragon Pulse, Coil, which is pretty nice as well. Hydro Pump if I feel like we need the extra oomph, but I feel like Scald will probably be alright. Does get access to Protect. Competitive and Marvel Scale are two very good abilities. I've never really been one to use competitive Milotic just because I've always used special sets and I've never really used physical sets. Who knows, maybe we'll use a Flame Orb set in the future, but I don't know. I feel like Marvel Scale is probably the better ability in general. So, I'm just super excited to try this thing out draft. Like, it's gonna be really nice. Having two relatively bulky Pokemon to bring is just super cool, and I'm super excited. So, the next Pokemon up on the list is by far the one I'm the most excited about drafting, right? It is a Tier 2, and this Pokemon I wanted to draft the last 2 seasons of the NPBA, but I couldn't because it was sniped from me the exact round I was going to draft it by the same person Season 4 and Season 5. So I was really scared that the turn I was going to draft this, which was the 3rd turn, you know, I was really nervous because that guy was able to pick, 4 times before I got to pick this thing? No, twice. He was able to pick... No. Yeah, twice. Because Marvel would have been my second because I had to wait. I picked once, I had to let it come all the way back to me, picked Milotic, and then picked this one, and then I had to wait for it to go back. Yeah, so we only got to pick twice. But he didn't draft it, and finally I've been allowed to draft Ledge, right? Slice and dice the Ledge is coming, guys, and we are going to be using this thing like nobody's business. This thing is so good with a base 125 attack stat and a base 100 special defense, which is really nice. Not to mention it's got base 75 HP and base 80 defense, so it is not bulky, but it's not frail either. So, you know, and base 85, I think, is that the same speed as Milotic? No, it's 4 base points higher. So it's a little bit faster, right? But it does get access to weak armor. So if we do want to run a weak armor set, this thing could be, like, even a weakness policy weak armor set could be extremely strong, right? As well as it does get access to flash fire as well. So we have a fire type immunity, which we do have a few fire types that we did draft, right? It does get access to stuff like Shadow Sneak for priority. It gets access to Shadow Claw, Bulk Up, gets access to a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think the one move that we're glossing over here is Bitter Blade, right? Like, that thing being able to deal out a decent, like a decently strong fire type attack and heal at the same time is extremely scary. So they can't just bring in a Pokemon that's gonna take that damage, because Ledge is just gonna regain health. So it's gonna be a thing that if Ledge is lower and they want to bring in another Pokemon to take a Bitter Blade, it's not going to be for nothing, because regardless, we're still going to get a little bit of health back. Even if it's just a smidge, even if it is like a Pokemon that takes 10 damage, that's still 10 points that we get back that could potentially make it so we might, you know, not die. So I'm super excited for this thing. Like I said, I've wanted to draft it for 2 seasons now. There might have been some other better fire types that I could have drafted, but I needed to draft this thing specifically because I didn't get to draft it the last 2 seasons. So I had to wait for it to go all the way back and come back to me at this point. Now, this next Pokemon is a tier 3 that I drafted. And, you know, I was a little nervous because this Pokemon came back in the Indigo Disc, and we've already used it for multiple seasons of the NPBA, right? We've used this Pokemon for multiple times, and it's usually a Pokemon that goes later in the draft. So I thought maybe I could pick up some other Pokemon before I pick this one up. And to be completely honest, if we had other if it was taken, there were other Pokemon that could have filled in this spot. But I wanted this guy back on my team so bad. I felt like drafting him early was our best case scenario. So I just went ahead and did it, and we picked up our boy, Luke Cage, the Hitmonchan, back on the squad. And this thing, getting access to the broken item Punching Glove with Iron Fist. Let me tell you guys, let me tell you something, right? Luke Cage is gonna come in with those punching gloves, and he is going to take no names. He's going to come in with the old 1-2, and he's going to be dealing the most massive amount of damage without being choice banded, right? Being able to just throw in that punching glove and fire off drain punches, kind of like Ledge, doing a lot of damage and healing at the same time. Even the most resisted Pokemon are not going to like it, right? And plus, it gets access to Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch as well, being boosted by Punch Glove and Iron Fist, as well as Mach Punch. Let's not gloss over that. As well as Fake Out. Well, Fake Out not boosted by either of those, I don't believe, but it does get access to Fake Out. But just those 3 elemental punches to cover a lot of bases is just very good. So I'm very excited about that. Like I said, we can put close combat on this thing if I feel like we need to. I'm not sure if Punching Glove or Iron Fist powers up close combat or not, but I know it does Drain Punch, and I feel like Drain Punch will be more than enough, right? Especially with a base 105 attack stat, right? Now, this thing is not the bulkiest. On the special defense side, it does have base 110 special defense, which is kind of crazy, but it does only have base 50 HP and both base 35 special attack. We're never going to be investing in bulk on this thing, right? Unless, like, I'm specifically EVing it to take a hit from somebody else. But I'm never going to bring this thing as a bulky Pokemon. We have multiple other Pokemon that can be bulky on this team. We don't need Luke Cage to be bulky, right? And it has base 76 speed, again, which isn't slow, but it's not super fast. It's respectable. Throwing a Choice Scarf on this thing, going for Timid, you know, Timid is, right, plus speed, minus special attack, right? I think. It's not Jolly, I believe is minus. I don't know. One of those two. So I'll come in and just fire off a lot of attacks. Not to mention, this thing does get access to Rapid Spin, which I feel like I knew, but when I looked it up, I was like, huh. So, which is actually really good because of the amount of Sticky Web users that are out there, especially with the Indigo Disc bringing back like 4 other ones, and then the Teal Mask bringing a few, and now we just have Insane, when before it was really just Spide Ops and Masquerain. So being able to draft these things to get rid of those is fairly nice. So I'm super excited. Now, and I think my dog just farted. That's super great. That's super awesome. That's exactly what I wanted to smell right now. So, coming back to us again, obviously we only had to wait a few more picks. There was a Pokemon that I was specifically waiting for, and I didn't really know if I wanted to draft it. It is a tier 3, or it is a tier 2, right? We finally used some of our points. It is a Pokemon that I didn't think warranted a tier 3 or tier 2. It's probably better in tier 3, but for one specific reason, I felt like I couldn't put it in tier 3 because it was too good for tier 3. And I didn't think anybody would draft it in tier 2, not gonna lie, and then I ended up drafting it. One of my favorite Pokemon, as well as Milotic. Funny enough, I drafted multiple of my favorite Pokemon this season. But I was super excited because I'm very, very happy to bring this thing to the team, and I think it's going to be very instrumental. And that is Alolan Ninetales, right? Rora the Alolan Ninetales, right? Obviously not the best stats in the world, but it does have a decent base 100 special defense and base 109 speed, which it is the fastest Pokemon on our team right now. Right? It was a Pokemon that I felt like spending 200 points on was probably alright in the end of it because of Aurora Veil, right? Being able to set up snow, it's not going to hurt us because it's not hail anymore. And we get a special defense buff in the hail, which is really nice. We do have the ability to just come in, set up an Aurora Veil, and just fire off 100% accurate blizzards, right? This thing does get access to Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam as well as a fast Encore user, so if I want to just Encore Pokemon into a certain move, I do have that ability, right? It is just super, super good. It's very pretty. It is top 5 favorite Pokemon for me. Ninetales in general. I prefer this version over the regular version, but I think Kanto Ninetales would still be in my top 10 even if this didn't exist, right? I absolutely love this Pokemon, and I'm super, super excited that we got to draft it. I think it's very good. Obviously not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world, but it is a Pokemon that I think I'll be able to come in, set up an Aurora Veil very, very easily, and keep our team free from taking a massive amount of damage. So I'm very, very excited for that. The next Pokemon we drafted, again, I had to wait for it to come all the way back to me. This Pokemon, I was a little nervous would get drafted in Tier 3, but it actually didn't. Funny enough, I did not get sniped one time in this draft. This is like the first time in a few seasons that I did not get sniped one single time. This same round, the guy who had sniped Serial Edge from me 2 seasons in a row actually took the backup Pokemon for me that I was going to take if this Pokemon got drafted, which was Cinccino, right? And I was really nervous because if this Pokemon got drafted, I was going to draft Cinccino. So I was really nervous that it would get drafted that round, because otherwise I would be up to finding another Pokemon totally, because of the fact that, like, this thing filled a certain ability to me, right? This Pokemon also is one from a previous draft league that we did. The actual one that we won, Season 3, the BDSP one, and that is our boy, Monkey the Ambipom, right? Very excited. Monkey the Ambipom was definitely the MVP of our winning season of the NPBA, so seeing that this thing was back, and seeing that I could put it in Tier 3 and get it for a steal in Tier 3, because it definitely isn't worth Tier 2, I think was just really, really good. It's just a really good Pokemon in general. Very fast in the base 115 speed, and it has base 100 attack, which is really nice, right? And the one thing that it does different than Cinccino, because they both get Technician, is that this thing does get access to Fake Out, right? Which is really, really what I wanted. It gets Fake Out, Double Hit. It doesn't have a very big move pool, because it gets access to Thief, and that is really about it. But that is why I made this thing our Terra Captain. One of our 2 Terra Captains, right? So we have access to Terra Terra Normal, Terra Fairy, and Terra Ghost, right? So Terra Ghost makes it so they can't hit us with a fighting type attack, as well as if we need to, we can run Terra Blast on this thing, so we can run a physical type Terra Blast as Ruterad, so we can hit fairly hard with that, right? Because we can't run Terra Blast on this thing, because it is special, unless we Terrestrialize. So, and then we are Terra Normal, which I think is just very good on this thing in general. And then Terra Fairy, just because we only have one Fairy type on the team, and I don't know if we'll ever use Terra Fairy, but it is nice to have it to hit some, you know, fighting types for super effective. We can resist the fighting type attack and then hit them for super effective back, especially if they think we'll Terra Ghost, and then they don't hit us. They hit us with a fighting type move, we're immune to it, but then we can hit them back super effectively. With Terra Blast and stuff like that, right? And then, like I said, Terra Normal just obviously powers up all our other moves that we have. This thing also just getting access to just it hits fairly hard. I remember using this thing in that season and just absolutely demolishing. So I'm very, very excited to bring this thing. I'm very excited to do some absolute nuts damage with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This thing is really designed to just come in and deal some damage. Now, it does suck that we have two normal types. I don't like doubling up on typings in draft in general, but we do have a fairy type and we do have a ghost type. So, and we are able to Terra into a ghost type, as well as we have a couple other Pokemon that resist it, including our next Pokemon, which I picked up at a tier 4, which is super excited because we drafted its evolution last season, and it didn't really do too much for us, but I think that's just because I used it wrong. So we needed to draft its pre-Evo to pick up some redemption, and that is why I drafted Spike the Hisuian Quillfish, right? Hisuian Quillfish, definitely one of my favorite Hisuian Pokemon. It is super, super cool. Overquill is awesome, my favorite Hisuian Pokemon, and it really sucks because of the fact that I feel like Hisuian Quillfish, or I feel like we just didn't use Overquill to its best ability in last season. It's not that it wasn't good, it's that we didn't use it to its full potential, right? I saw AIM use it in the last season of the SPL. I know what it can do. Now, granted, AIM is a much better player than I am, but I feel like I needed to use this thing a little bit better, and I also saw how Seabad used this thing in the last season of the SPL as well. So I was like, you know what? I really, really want to draft this thing. I want to do some massive amount of damage. It gets access to Toxic Spikes. It gets access to Scale Shot, which is really nice. Poison Jab. It gets access to just a lot of really, really awesome things, right? And it's base 95 attack, which is pretty cool. Throwing, it is base 55 special defense, base 65 HP, and base 85 defense, but because of pre-evo, we're going to just toss the Eviolite on this thing. I really, really like having pre-evolved Pokemon that we can just toss the Eviolite on, so we can just come and bring and just have them take damage. But this thing in general, I think will be very good, and I decided that it was in my best interest to make this thing our Terra Captain as well, and we have drafted it at a Poison, a Water, and a Dragon type, right? Poison is definitely better than Darker Poison. This is our grounded Poison type, so we can come in, absorb Toxic Spikes if we need, as well as just fire off a lot, and it makes us so we are no longer immune to Psychic, but, you know, we still do a massive amount of damage. I think Terra Water is definitely like a must on this thing. It gets access to Liquidation and still gets access to Swift Swim. And there's a team that is devoted totally to Rain in this league. So what I could do is bring this thing in and have them set up the Rain, and then we just absolutely come in and demolish with this thing. So, and then Dragon, because I didn't really know what else I wanted to draft, or for other typing on this, but it gets access to Scale Shot, so I thought it would be cool if we had, like, Stab Scale Shot on, like, a Dragon type, which would be pretty nice, boosting our speed at the same time. So, Spike is going to be pretty neat for us. I'm really, really excited. So, now we are back down to our 3 free agents, right? I had to wait for it to come all the way back to me, and these last 3 were kind of like weird picks for me because they were not ones that I planned on drafting at all. But when it came back to me, I realized that our whole team is pretty much slow. With the exception of like, I mean, Milotic and Blood Moon are fairly slow. Hisuian Quillfish is fairly slow. Like, I wanted, you know, we have some other mid-speed Pokemon, but I wanted something to come in that would help us out where we could have a Tailwind user, right? And looking through tier 3, there wasn't a ton of Tailwind users that I thought would be really great, but there's one that specifically stood out to me, and that is why we drafted Boombox the Noivern, right? Noivern is super cool. I never really thought about drafting this thing, but being able to have Boombox I think will be really, really nice. It is base 123 speed, which makes it the fastest thing on our team, right? The fastest thing. It gets access to Tailwind, but it also gets access to Defog. So if we don't have Hazard set up on their side and we want to come in and Defog, we can, especially if we didn't bring Rapid Spin on Hitmonchan. This thing gets access to Draco Meteor. It gets access to Air Slash. It does get access to Infiltrator and Frisk, right? Infiltrator being a really, really cool ability so we can ignore subs. And stuff like that, and Frisk being able to ignore or being able to see what items, which is really, really good in draft, right? It's not as good in regular competitive, but it is very, very good in draft, especially if that'll change everything how we play, right? So this thing I think is just really, really good to just come in, set up a Tailwind really, really fast, and then fire off some like Dracos or even just like Draco eject pack too would kind of be cool. Come in, set up Tailwind, Draco, eject pack out. You know what I mean? Like I think that's just really, really cool. But yeah, and it's not grounded, so that takes away our little bit of a ground type weakness in Milotic and Hisui and Quillfish. So even though now I'm looking at it, we do have Alolan Ninetales and Milotic, two really good ground type answers. But, you know, having an immunity is always, always better. So, the next one up on this list is I've talked a lot about hazards. And I don't really care for hazards too much, except for one. I'm a really big fan of sticky webs. And like I said, there's a lot of sticky webs users that came in. And I felt like having a good sticky web user would be really nice. I was looking at Galvantula this whole time, right? Like, up until just, like, a little bit before I drafted this Pokemon, I was like, I want Galvantula. That's the Pokemon I want. And then I found one that did the exact same thing as Galvantula. It's just slower, but it hits a lot harder. And that is Overdrive the Vikavolt. Shout out to A-Drive with the name, the name. Yeah, Overdrive. I believe that's where I got that from. But I think it's just going to be very, very good. Vikavolt, it definitely is very, very slow. The slowest member on our team with 43 speed. Does that mean that it's not a good Pokemon? Absolutely not. May I end up dropping this for Galvantula at some point? Maybe. But I do think that it's just very, very good in general. I think it hits really hard, and I'm super, super excited. You know, that base 145 special attack is absolutely insane. I think that's the highest attacking stat in our entire squad. And being slow, we can set up sticky webs, and then slow Volt Switch out, which is really nice, right? He also gets access to Thunderbolt and Thunder, which is really nice. Doesn't get access to Compound Eyes, like Galvantula, so we can't fire off some almost 100% accurate Thunders. But it is still very good. Does get access to Quiver Dance, I believe. Does get access to Bug Buzz. Giga Drain, which also is really, really neat. I didn't feel like this was a Terracaptain material just because it's too slow and I don't know how much we'll use it. So, but this last Pokemon, again, was just something to fill in the gaps. I feel like I didn't want Vikavolt to be our only answer to water types, right? I did not want Vikavolt to be our only Pokemon that could hit water types were super effective. So I wanted a grass type, right? And I wanted a grass type that was a little bit more of a utility user. So I decided to pick a Pokemon that I actually haven't got to draft. I've wanted to draft in the past, but it's always been picked before I could. And that is Blossom the Lilligant, right? I absolutely love Lilligant. I think it's a really, really awesome Pokemon. Base 90 speed is really, really nice. It gets access to Quiver Dance. It gets access to Sleep Powder. It gets access to After You, which is a very, very, very good move in general, so that this Pokemon being faster, we can bring it in next to Blood Moon or Vikavolt, click After You, have it go directly after, and it's just being really, really, really good in general, right? It does get access to Giga Drain, Leaf Storm, all those good stuff, but I thought having a decently fast Pokemon with access to Sleep Powder was fairly nice too. Now, that takes care of all our points, right? That takes up all of our points. So now, you guys need to see what I wanted for my Tier 1, right? It is the last Pokemon that I drafted, right? And like I said at the beginning of the video, I didn't think it would get drafted, and it didn't. Now, I wanted something else that was going to be very good. I was very excited to draft it, and that is OG the Mew, right? Now, I'm super hyped about this thing, right? OG the Mew. Mew is so good with 100 in every stat, which is decent. Makes it a totally blank canvas, right? Between having, basically being able to make it you do whatever hell you want it to do, it also gets access to every single TM in the entire game. Meaning it is the hardest Pokemon to counter in the entirety of draft. Or meaning that I could run it fast, bulky, especially offensive, physically offensive, whatever I want, this thing could come in for. Has a move to hit any Pokemon super effectively. Obviously, it cannot Terastallize. I mean, that'd be absolutely broken. But being able to just hit it anything, right? Come in and, like, even if somebody preps, because I brought physical Mew all season, and they prep to take, like, a max attack close combat, and I run it especially offensive with Aura Sphere or Focus Blast, like, it's just so good. And knowing from experience, Mew is the hardest Pokemon in draft to prep against, because you don't know how it's going to run. You can watch back to see how somebody runs it as much as you want, but you can never take it for granted, right? Because the minute somebody switches it up, you know, that's where it comes in. So I'm super excited because this thing does get access to a lot of support. I want to say all the stuff that it gets access to, but I can't say in the video because there's a lot of sets that I don't want to reveal that I could end up using, and I know a lot of the guys from the league will be watching this video. So, but other than that, guys, that's pretty much the team. I want to know what you guys think of it down below. If you guys think that there were different Pokemon that I should have drafted or should not have drafted, but let me know what you guys think about down below. And yeah, and definitely make sure you have your notifications on so you don't miss the video next week where we will be going against the Las Vegas Gimagools for our week 1 battle. So that'll be really, really awesome. But other than that, guys, that is going to be it for me. So like I say at the end of every video, I am the Nitro General. I really hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Nitro General's out. Peace.